Alrighty, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this really exciting webinar about ownership within ECI Development as a stockholder. And I know this is a very different sort of presentation than the ones we usually do. Usually we talk about ownership of real estate and how you can be a property owner with us. This is a special session in the sense that you are able to join us from that shareholder perspective. So with us today, we have CEO Mike Cobb, but we're not going to introduce Mike quite yet. Mike, do you have your screen to show?
I do, absolutely.
Let's get that up and then we'll get started from there.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, fantastic. And you could just put it on presentation mode. Fantastic. All right, so this is what we're going to be talking today, pre-IPO success story. So how it is you can become a shareholder with us in ECI Development. Mike is going to talk a lot more about the specifics, but as you see here on the screen, it is a very unique time for, I think, the world generally, and even for us as an organization. And I've been with the company for about 8 years, a little over 8 years at this point, and have never seen an opportunity where ECI shares have been discounted. So this opportunity in the world today gives you a very unique opportunity to enter as a shareholder into ECI Development. Next slide, please, Mike. And a little bit more about us. So I'm just going through the names here on the screen. I think a lot of you are familiar with us. Some of you are just learning a little bit more about who we are as an organization. And I'm going to read the mission statement out loud because I do think that is an important part of who we are. It's a core part of our business. It's why we're doing what we're doing. ECI Development offers affordable luxury residence and resort communities in Central America, providing our clients with various premier lifestyle options from the Caribbean to the Pacific. ECI delivers inspired residences for adventurous souls. And this really is a key component about who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. And Mike is going to talk about the importance of the demographics in this and why it really is a critical part of ECI Development. But with that being said, let me actually introduce Mike. Mike Cobb is our CEO and co-founder of the organization. He founded the company over 20 years ago and really had this unique vision in the marketplace that not many people had then, and even today, not many people had. And it is serving consumers with a geographic choice when it comes to real estate ownership. And Mike's going to dive into that a little bit more. But Mike, I know that you, for me, you've been a big mentor in this space, in this part of the industry. And I've really found what you're doing very inspiring. I mean, I know I personally have purchased a property at ECI Development because I see what we're doing and see that it is being put into play and why we're doing what we're doing. But at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to the people. And Mike, you have such a tremendous knowledge in this space. I know that you've worked very closely with the National Association of Realtors. You sat on their presidential advisory group board. You've done a tremendous amount of work with them in helping to build their outbound sales program, so helping people within the United States find property overseas and how it can be tracked to really help gather the statistics that NAR is looking for. There's a lot more that you do. I know you speak at a lot of conferences. Now a lot of it's virtual, but you do go to a lot of events and really speak because you have over 20 years of experience of developing in Latin America. So like I said, we're not going to necessarily get into specific property opportunities. We're going to get more into the shareholder perspective. But Mike, I know your next slide here, you have a little bit more about how you see the organization unfolding. And so why don't you get started with the presentation and share folks with the great information you have.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It is always fun to get in and talk a little bit about the company, what we're doing, why we got started, the people we serve, and how we serve them. And ultimately, that's always what a successful business is about. It's about serving clients. There was a great sales trainer and motivational speaker, Zig Ziglar, who had passed away recently, but had a great saying, and it was always a mantra of mine ever since I got involved in the sales industry back in 1986, so quite a while ago. And that was this, that if we help enough other people get what they want, we can have what we want. Because it always puts the focus on the consumer. It always puts the focus on the person we're serving. And so this is my mission statement. We have a corporate mission statement that's a little broader, but this is my personal mission statement: to listen to the clients, hear what they want, and then deliver that product to them. And it does matter what climate and geography. That's part of the listening, right? Because not one size fits all, right? Different strokes for different folks. And we're going to talk about why that's important and how we as a company have delivered that into the marketplace uniquely and almost exclusively. Those are powerful, unique selling propositions that we bring to the marketplace. But first and foremost, most importantly, the piece that we bring is the ability to listen to what clients are looking for and then serve them with that product. So without further ado, let's get into the presentation. And Rachel really hit the nail on the head. Many times when there's a presentation from a developer, it's about buying a piece of real estate. We're going to talk about condos in Belize, or we're going to talk about homes in Costa Rica or Panama, whatever it might be. This is very different. This presentation is about actually the opportunity for you to own a piece of our company. We've built our company over the last 24 years. We have been in business for 24 years. October, we will start our 25th year of business. The same folks at the helm for 25 years, myself, my business partner, some of our directors, and many of our employees. Rachel's actually one of our newbies at 8 years. Many of our employees have been with us for 10, 12, 15 years or more. And so when you've developed this kind of intellectual capital as an organization, you can do really wonderful things. And so one of the things that we've done very differently is we've grown our business through equity. We've borrowed very little money. We have very little debt. And if you decide that you want to look at our business plan and our financials, and you're an accredited investor, you may certainly do that. We ask you fill out an NDA. And what you'll find is we have a huge balance sheet full of assets and very, very minimal debt. And that's an important piece of why we're still in business today. And it's a fundamental tenet of how we operate our business. And Rachel mentioned that the shares are discounted. And we've never, in 24 years of being in business, this is the first time we've ever discounted our shares. Let me tell you why. Back in 2008, 2009, when the real estate crisis hit the US, it also hit Latin America. And we were not prepared. We did not have debt, so we could hunker down, and we did. We hunkered down, we cut our costs, and we scrambled through some very tough years, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So that 5-year period was exceedingly difficult for us, but we didn't have debt, and we could cut our costs, and we did that, and we survived. But the opportunities that I saw, the opportunities that people actually brought to me, again, when you've been doing this for 24 years, people know you. I know people, they know me. People came to me and said, Mike, I've got this great opportunity. I've got this development I've been working on, and we're going down for the 3rd time. And I had no cash. I had no way to come in and pick up some incredibly wonderful opportunities that were presented to me really on a silver platter in many cases. Well, this time is different. When the COVID panic hit, when the COVID virus hit and the panic ensued, and the repercussions of that panic have really been dramatic, right? We've seen incredible changes in human behavior, right? This crisis, we are just at the very tip of this iceberg. There will be many, many companies that do not make it out the backside of this. I fully expect to see many opportunities to help other projects come in and save a failing project, or pick up a piece of real estate at an extremely discount price. We're starting to see some of this already. We're starting to sniff it out. People are talking again about, hey, what's going on over here, and can we help? We are raising money to be in a position of cash to take advantage of opportunities in the marketplace today that we couldn't take advantage of in 2008. Lessons, if you listen to them, are tuition. We learned, we paid some tuition, we've learned some valuable lessons. We are ready, and we will be even more ready to take advantage of the opportunities coming down the pike over the next 12, 18, 24 months as this COVID pandemic really sends the shock waves through the industry. This is a great time of opportunity for our company, and we want you to come along for the ride. There's some great things happening. I mean, again, we've been in business for 24 years. We have proof of concept. Unlike buying one piece of real estate, the second bubble at the bottom, unlike buying one piece of real estate, when you own shares of ECI stock, you actually own today 7 neighborhoods in 4 countries. It's a very diversified portfolio of hard assets, real estate. We plan to take the company public. And if we do, and you do buy shares at the $8.80 share price today, the block of stock that we have for that price, you are going to see somewhere between 10 and 12 times your money at the IPO. So again, a great opportunity to take advantage of. And then the other thing that people have done, and maybe 20, 25% of our shareholders have decided to own shares inside an IRA or a SEP or some tax-deferred vehicle. So again, these are some great ways you can own shares and great reasons why you might want to own shares. As you can see, starting here on the left, we started the company. The share price was $2.50. Today, it's $17.60. By the time we take the company public, we expect the share price to be somewhere around $35. But you can get in today at $8.80. And that share price has not been this low for 20 years. This is an incredible opportunity to own shares at a much deeper discount. And the reason it's important for us is, yes, we're discounting the shares, but if we're able to transact and acquire beautiful properties for pennies on the dollar, the asset value that we bring to the company is much higher than the discounting and the dilution of this $8.80. Very, very important piece to understand. And again, the business plan delves into that in much greater detail. 2020 has been a great year for us. We closed on a beautiful property. The top 2 photos here are a beautiful property in Panama that we started working with the developer last year. Wonderful folks, many out of Canada, got into a project and couldn't get to the other side, but beautiful vision, great people, great start to a project. And it was really a good fit for us because it brought a new geography to the mix. We'll talk more about that later. Tiny homes in Nicaragua, a brand new phase sold out. Properties in Belize, condos and tiny homes selling out. Again, some great milestones. We're going to talk more about those later, but 2020 has been a phenomenal year for us so far and looks to continue to be one through the end and into 2021 as well. Again, these are some of the communities we have. These are the areas of Latin America that we currently serve and hope to serve in the future. Again, this regional focus, because not everybody wants the same thing, right? Different strokes for different folks. And so having properties and communities in different countries and in different geographies allow us to listen to what the client wants and serve them with the product that's right for them. So if you decide to invest in ECI, let's look at who ECI is. Along the bottom in the bold are our property assets: Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Belize, Panama Oceanfront, and Panama Highlands. So again, we've got 2 properties on the Caribbean, 2 properties on the Pacific, and 1 in the tropical highlands. But the other nice thing is we actually also have these service businesses, whether it's our utilities, our technology companies, property and rental management. These companies are also owned by ECI. So when you invest in ECI, the holding company, you own part of everything that we do as a company. I like to say that we dance with the girl we brought to the prom. Back 24, 25 years ago now, when we were raising money for our very first acquisition, a group of folks bet on us and said, you know what, you've got a great idea. We believe in you, Mike. We believe that you're going to accomplish what you've stated in your business plan. And then when we went on to add other properties and add other businesses, it was only right and proper to include those in that same company so that the people who believed in us from the very beginning received the benefits of our experience and tuition that we've paid over the years. So ECI continues to grow. We're going to talk about where that growth looks like later as well. The idea of a community is important. Again, a lot of detail in our business plan, but a big unique selling proposition, a big differentiator for us as an organization is the ability to deliver community. Because when people leave their homes in the States, Canada, other parts of the world, and they move someplace new, they've got to make new friends. They've got to find a way to engage others and build a new network of friends and peers. Community is so important to quality of life. And we've borrowed, I must say we borrowed the secret sauce of how to do that. And we'll talk about that in a second later. But this element of community is really important. And then this idea of proof of concept. Again, 25 years ago, people were betting on Mike. Hey, Mike says he's going to do these things. But you know what? We took this is our Grand Pacifica project. We took a cattle pasture, 2,500 acres, 3.5 miles of beach. We put in roads, water, sewer. We ran electricity, 3-phase electricity, 26 kilometers through the countryside to electrify something that didn't have electric. We've improved the public roads. We've done all of this. And we've taken a cattle pasture at the end of a horrible dirt road with nothing and turned it into a village by the sea. This is proof of concept. This is real. This is actual right now today. I always like to tell just a little bit, back in 2002, we had bought our property, our Grand Pacifica property in 2000. In 2002, it was time for somebody to go boots on the ground and gen this thing up. Well, this is my wife, Carol, my daughter, Amanda, who was 2 at the time, and myself just after we moved to Nicaragua. And, we went for what we thought would be 2-3 years. But you know what? At the end of 3 years, Carol and I went out to dinner one night and we said, you know what? Do we really want to move back to the States or do we want to stay here? And when we ran the analysis, it was very quickly apparent that our quality of life was phenomenal. Our cost of living was fractional. And so we made the decision to stay in Nicaragua for 11 more years. So we lived in Nicaragua for 14 years as expats. Why is that important? Why is that relevant? Well, we've done it. I've done it. I understand what it means to be an expat, right? This level of comprehension, experiential knowledge is powerful in the marketplace, and it translates very well to the consumer set. And so, yeah, we lived in Nicaragua. We had a great time. We had another daughter, Emily, who came along a couple years later. We had great times with my family and her family. The girls grew up watching football games. They grew up in Girl Scouts. They grew up dancing. All of this in the country of Nicaragua. Again, not some place that many people would think, oh, that's a great place to raise a family. And why would you want to stay there? We loved it. And it was a tremendous experience. So let's talk about the business. I want to talk about this high-level thought right now, which is waves of change are waves of opportunity. Change brings winners and losers, right? I mean, change is not static, right? Change brings winners and losers. Well, when I graduated from college, I got involved in the computer business. It was back in 1986. And I was just lucky. I ended up on the PC side of things, the personal computers. Back then it was XTs and 286s, right? I could have ended up on the mainframe side, but I was lucky, got in on the PC side of things, didn't know anything. Well, obviously the PCs grew, and that was a revolutionary time in the computer business, right? Waves of change, revolutionary change in the computer business. And these big mainframe companies that people would have said, they're too big to fail. I mean, we don't even remember their names anymore. They're just gone. But the people who were on the PC side of things, Dell, Jobs, Gates, many others, Neely, people that did a lot of the hardware in the background you might not have heard of before, those people became millionaires and billionaires. Waves of change are waves of opportunity. If we see it, if we anticipate it, if we get a little bit ahead of it, like this surfing wave, right? If we're too far ahead of it, we crumble and bumble. If we're too far behind, we miss it. But when we catch that wave and we're just a little bit in front of it, wow, the energy behind it is powerful and we can really surf something to incredible success. Well, we've been doing that. And now it's time to take our company and ramp it up even further for incredible levels of production and service to the consumers who are starting to really roll into this part of the world. But let's go back and take a quick history lesson. I mentioned before that we borrowed a great idea about this geography, different strokes for different folks. Not everybody wants the same thing. Well, Del Webb went to the desert of, and you guys probably heard of Del Webb or the brand Sun City. That's a brand that he created, the Sun City brand, Del Webb Communities. Del Webb had this great idea back in the 60s, right? He said to himself, you know what? There are going to be a whole bunch of people retiring soon. out of, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota. I heard somebody, Carl, in Chicago, and other people up north, and Alan, you're up in Minnesota, I think. And a bunch of people out of this northern part of the United States and all of Canada who are saying, you know what, I'm not going to retire in this cold weather. I want warm weather. So Del Webb went outside of Phoenix, Arizona, bought this giant piece of land and built the very first Sun City. Beautiful. He figured out how to deliver community, that aspect that's so important for quality of life, right? He understood the demographics. He understood how to create community. But he also understood that not everybody would want to live in the desert of Arizona. Some people would want to live at the seashore. Some people like Pacific. Some people like Gulf. Some people like Atlantic. Some people want to live in the Piedmonts of the Carolinas. And ultimately, there were over 22 states had 50 communities. Del Webb expanded, and the Pulte Company came along and said, well, there's a great idea that's being executed well. We're going to buy it. And that's what happened. Del Webb sold to Pulte for $1.8 billion. Okay, incredible, right? The marketplace rewards well-executed genius. And just coming back to the community for a second, look at this quote. Concrete, steel, and lumber make the buildings. People make the community. And when you build community-centric or people-centric neighborhoods, you get community, and community has value. And we know that because the marketplace prices homes and condominiums inside communities far higher than they do properties just down the road in something that's not a community. So we borrowed some great ideas. We borrowed the community concept. We said, hey, this is how you create community. Let's do it. It's worked well for Del Webb. It could work for us. But the other piece of the puzzle that I think was his true genius was, again, not everybody wants to live in the desert of Arizona. And so, yes, while there are great projects in Belize, there are great projects in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Chile, Colombia, Argentina, like these countries all have wonderful developers and great projects, I say projects because not all of them are communities. In fact, very few of them are communities, but there are some communities in each of these countries. But the difference is we are today in 4 countries with 7 neighborhoods, 4 communities in 4 countries with 7 distinct neighborhoods. We can listen to what a client wants and we can serve them with that product. Big difference, huge difference. Let's look again at another piece of Del Webb's genius. He understood that, there's the distribution of income, and this is a distribution from the US Census, right? Well, in the overseas market, in the developer market overseas, most developers want to build really high-end fancy product, right? They want to build the stuff that'll show up on Architectural Digest magazine. But, you got to write a check for $500, $750, $1 million to buy it, right? These are beautiful homes and you see them featured all the time. This space is very crowded because most developers want to build the stuff that they can write home to mom about, or as I like to say, if you want to impress your fancy friends, buy a fancy Park Avenue restaurant. If you want to make a lot of money, buy a Chick-fil-A. This market that we serve, this middle to upper middle class marketplace, is almost empty of competitors. People just simply don't want to be in this space because honestly, it's not very sexy. If you're building $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 product, it can be beautiful. It can even be luxurious in Latin America, but it's not the same kind of sexy that the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million mansions are. This space is wide open, and the number of people who can write checks for $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 is far greater than the number of people who can write checks for $500,000 and up. Chick-fil-A, it's the model, right? It's the model. And then again, when you're working in that space, being able to offer financing is very, very important as well, and we can. So Del Webb understood the demographics back then in the 70s and 80s and 90s. It was the greatest generation, or the silent generation, right? It was that first generation of people born before World War II who were retiring. But the next generation, our demographics, really starts with the baby boomers. And between the US and Canada, we're talking about 93 million people. Interestingly, it's only 1/3 of the population, but it controls 2/3 to 3/4 of the wealth, right? So again, a pretty wealthy generation as a whole, but there are some challenges that many boomers are facing that a lifestyle in Central America or Latin America will help resolve. And that's a lot of the stuff in our business plan goes into that. But we're going to look at what's happening right now. Today, 11,500 baby boomers retire every day. And this trend will continue for the next 16 years. This is happening right now. How about a survey? A survey is people asking questions and getting opinions. But look at this, 103,000 US citizens were surveyed. That is a huge statistical sampling. Well, 11%, 1 in 10 said they were seriously considering owning property overseas. And 17% of those said Latin America was their first choice. That's a big number of people, over 4 million people who are seriously considering owning property in Latin America. TD Waterhouse did a study of Canadians. Look at that. 45% of Canadians plan to spend a month or more outside of Canada every year. I'm guessing it's winter, right? Again, smaller number of people, 9 million, but still 4 million Canadians planning to be outside of Canada a month or more every year. Those were surveys. Coming back to what's happening right now, 8 million North Americans live outside North America today, right now. And over 600,000 of those folks are US retirees who collect their Social Security check while living outside the United States. By the way, that 600,000 number more than doubled in the last 11 years. So not only is it a big number and it's growing quicker, more rapidly every year. And I think we're at the beginning of an incredible escalation of that as well. And I don't think we're going to talk about that in this presentation, but I'm just going to touch on it briefly. When people can retire, let's take the word retire out. If somebody is 50, I'm 56, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, I'm going to retire in 10, 12 years when I hit my late 60s. And when I retire, I'm going to move to Belize because I've always loved Belize. I want to go there. I want to dive. I want to snorkel. I want to fish. I just want the Belize lifestyle. But I got to wait till I'm 68 to retire, right? Because I'm working. Well, post-COVID, the disassociation, the decoupling of my work from where I work is now proven. Many people who have been saying to themselves, I got to wait another 10 years before I buy my place in wherever, overseas, right? Because I have to keep working. For many people, that's not the reality anymore. And what that truly means is people will be moving sooner because they can move sooner and continue to work from these new locations. Powerful, powerful societal shift, fundamental, big societal shift that's going to be driving migration much, much stronger in the years to come. And speaking of migration, check out this group, the millennials. 45% of a demographic that is 83 million strong have said they want to live and work overseas. These are the folks that already know how to work from a laptop. They're already doing it in many cases. Almost half want to live and work overseas. Again, this demographic, as they begin to earn more, have more money to buy properties, will emerge as the next big wave of buyers. So when these baby boomers after 16 years are, out the back end and they've all retired and whoever's going to move overseas has moved overseas, right? This next generation will be ascendant into that space. And many of them aren't waiting for retirement. They will be living and working overseas because they can. Many of these people will be our customers in the very near future too. Well, why are people coming? It's a great quality of life and it's inexpensive. Why did my wife say, I don't really want to move back to the States? Because we had a full-time maid and we paid her less than $200 a month. I mean, no chores for less than $200 a month. We had a woman come to the house and give her a massage, I don't know, a couple times a month at our home. And it was like $20, less than $20. Quality of life is phenomenal. The cost of living is inexpensive. Medical care is excellent and affordable out of pocket. But you don't have to give up your US medical care. You can keep that, right? But if you're overseas, these types of things, again, excellent and affordable. Community, I'm going to skip through a little bit of this. Our business plan is 200 and some pages, very thorough. But at the end of the day, this idea of community is also about people engaging in the larger community around them, giving back, right? And this transition from success to significance is really a big part of this community piece that we embrace, we encourage, and we help foster through what we do with our owners, with our shareholders, and with the neighbors we have in the larger community around us. It all hangs together very, very well for an incredibly cohesive word, community. So again, we're back to this slide, who we are. Let's take a deeper dive on some of these properties. Let's go to our Grand Pacifica property. Nicaragua is the least popular country on this curve. It's not very popular, but you know, it's still selling, right? It's not as popular as the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, but it's selling, right? The really good thing is that we own a giant piece of property. So as the country of Nicaragua comes up this popularity curve, it already has, by the way, since we bought the property in 2000, it's already a lot more popular, right? It's a lot more accessible. You know, we have 3.5 miles of beach and 2,500 acres that's going to increase in value as an asset tremendously. This is the neighborhood, our first neighborhood, San Diego Viejo. We have Casita Village. We have Santa Barbara. We have a tiny home community. All these neighborhoods are coming into life right now, and it's real in a way that's important. And again, this idea of middle class. You know, we have 2-bedroom, 2-bath casitas for $139,000. We have oceanfront condominiums starting at $139,000. You know, a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house, $250,000. And some higher end product in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. By the way, we also have some people that, you know, bought a lot and built their own homes that are, you know, $700,000 to $1.5 million. So again, these neighborhoods accommodate a wide range of product type. The important thing here is that when a consumer comes to us and says, hey, you know, I've got, you know, $100,000, $150,000, I want to buy a home, right? We've got product that really is wonderful for them in that price range. You know, a lot of folks and some of the folks on this webinar actually own teak as a separate investment. I bring this up just to say that we are planting teak at Grand Pacifica. We've got 2,500 acres. Some of the land would be very hard to develop in the future. We are planting teak on it. Some of that teak we sell, and those are revenues that come back to us. Other teak we're not selling, and you know, in 25 years, again, it's a long cycle investment. Those teak proceeds from the harvest and the milling and the sale of that lumber will accrue to ECI shareholders. So I just mentioned that because it's one more thing that we as a company have done to include our shareholders in some great opportunities. And again, the cost to do it is minimal if you own the land and you have the human resource ability to manage it. Again, there's other information on the teak if you're interested. It's a neat product, giant leaves as you can see, and a very, very valuable hardwood. Costa Rica is another country where we have a giant piece of property. Again, not very popular. The Caribbean side of Costa Rica is not nearly as popular as the Pacific side of Costa Rica. But again, it's becoming more popular. And as this property becomes more and more popular, our 1,100 acres and 1.8 miles of Caribbean coastline become more and more and more valuable. We've talked about an IPO, an initial public offering, and the timeline for that is late 2022, early 2023. That's our anticipation. Again, the future is hard to predict. Things can come up. But the important thing for you to understand as someone who's thinking about owning shares of our company is that the IPO is where we put a lot of our treasury stock in, we turn it into a big chunk of cash, we take that cash as a company and we redeploy it back in the business. And one of the things that's going to get a big chunk of that cash, maybe as much as half of the money that we raise in the public offering, is going to come back to develop a marina in this site. This is like I don't know, make up a number, a 20-carat chunk of diamond rock. And you know, at any point, it's 1,100 acres and 1.8 miles of coastline. We've got rivers, we've got canals. We could chop it up into lots. We could do the Grand Pacifica model on it, build homes, build condos, you know, maybe put a golf course in, whatever it is, right? We could do that. But that would be taking a 10-carat diamond chunk and breaking up into lots of little, you know, 1-carat diamonds or quarter-carat diamonds. If we take the funds that we get from our initial public offering and we redeploy a big chunk of that into this project and develop a marina, wow, we are taking that same 10-carat and we're going to carve it real nice, and we might end up with an 8-carat beautiful diamond. that will be worth so much more than the sum total of lots of carat or quarter carat diamonds, right? So understand that this initial public offering, while it will be an incredible exit event for shareholders, where you could take your money and again, at the $8.80 price, you could, times 10, times 12, it will be a bonanza event for the individual who invests. But for the company, it's really taking the proof of concept, the assets that we already own, and turning them into something far more valuable for the long term. Panama is a country that's much more popular. It's been known for many years. People, I guess the canal gets it notoriety, but it's known, it's popular. People have been going there for decades. And Panama now is really interesting for us as a company because for a long time, we've had the beach. We're a 10% partner of Leif Simon and Kathy Petticord in their Los Islotes project. And it's a beautiful beach. You can see beautiful mountains overlooking the Pacific Ocean. But this property that we were just able to acquire at the beginning of this year is in the Highlands. And the Highlands is a very special climate. It's springtime all the time. The temperatures are in the 60s, 70s at night, 70s and 80s in the day, every day of the year. Literally, it's springtime every day. And so now, again, being able to listen to the client, oh, you like Panama, you want to live at the beach, great. Oh, you like Panama, but you want springtime all the time, great. We have product that we can serve in both cases. The property that we have with Leif and Kathy, 750 acres, again, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, absolutely stunning. The property in the Highlands, 110 acres, has roads, water, sewer, all laid out, ready to be turned on. The wires are there. We have to run them and turn this thing on. Again, the developer there did a phenomenal job of getting it ready to go. We are going to roll out tiny homes and more of a jungle theme using a lot of the teak that's produced. So again, a very, very special place, and price points of a complete home, a tiny home, under $100,000. Again, with that client in mind, that middle to upper middle class client, the middle class client in this case, who doesn't have a lot of money but wants that quality of life, wants the springtime all the time, and they can have it for $100,000. This tiny home concept, I just put this slide in, it doesn't quite fit here, but I just want to mention this tiny home concept, this $100,000, $125,000 product. We're rolling it out across the region. Again, this is a price point product that appeals both to an investment owner who says, I just want to buy one and put it in a rental program, or a vacationer who says, hey, I'm going on vacation for a couple of weeks a year, I'm going to rent it the rest of the time. Or now more and more people are saying, you know what, I'm going to downsize and I don't need a whole lot of indoor space. Maybe my indoor space is only 400 square feet, but by the time you put my decking and my rooftop terrace, I end up with 1,300 square foot of living space. And you know what, when it's springtime all the time, why do you want to be inside? You want to be outside on your roof or on your patio. And so this idea is gaining incredible traction in the United States, and it's just now getting traction overseas. Well, we're leading the way. We're out in front, and the sale of these products has been unbelievable in 2020. So Belize is a great country. It was the very first country that I started in. It's not super popular, but it's not at the bottom of this curve either. Kind of fits in the sweet spot, which is a neat place for a country to be. Why Belize? Ambergris Caye specifically, people love it. TripAdvisor is user reviews, right? People went on vacation and wrote something about it. It is at the top of the charts year after year after year. We partnered with Best Western. We did that in February, right before the big lockdown started to happen. But our Bayman Gardens community is a Best Western community. It's done. It's official. We held off on the launch because we didn't want to launch into the pandemic news. It would have been swallowed up. But for you as shareholders, just understand this is a Best Western property, and we have 54 units done. There's a pool, workout facility, tennis courts. It's all there. The first 4 buildings completely sold out. The Fleet building, I think we've sold 11 out of the 12. It was rapidly sold out in June and July of this year. We're opening up the next building. I think we have 1 unit left in the Fleet building, 98.9. So $100,000, right? You can have a beautiful studio and a Best Western property. We're also working with Marriott. We're in development of a Marriott property on the water. We've had the announcements. We've started construction actually on our dock, dive shop, pier, restaurant complex. That's, I think, almost done at this point. And so great things happening. The important piece for you to understand as a shareholder, by the way, if somebody wants to own one of these units, these Marriott residences, you can, right? But look at this. We are keeping over 60% of the residences because we as an organization want that revenue stream. And the triple net number to us as the owner of 60% of these residences will be somewhere between $2 and $3 million a year. That's free cash flow back to us and to you as shareholders in a dividend flow. We have ROI charts on these Marriott units, and a lot of this information, again, sign the NDA, we'll send it to you. But for the ones that are for sale, I mean, this is our Duke residence. It's a beautiful studio for $320,000, and the ROI kicking off on this thing is strong. Year one, 6%. When it stabilizes, it gets up to about 10, and when it hits full market maturation, 15, 16%. Can you understand why we as a company are keeping 60% of these units? We want this cash flow. I want this cash flow. I want it to come back in the company, and then I want to, have it paid out as dividends to our shareholders. The other nice thing on an asset basis is that, when the hotel is being built, it costs whatever it costs to be built. But once it's built, it's nearly double in value. That asset appreciation will come onto our books. And what that means for us is that, as a book value, when we go public, that starts to really lever up what the company is worth. And what that means is a higher share price. So anyway, good stuff going on with the Marriott, and we'll keep you posted on any of these details, by the way, if you'd like them. We always like to mention that people can own their properties with crypto. We accept Bitcoin. For if somebody says, I want a Marriott unit, I want a studio, I want a tiny home, and I've got Bitcoin, no problem, we'll take it. Now, just so we understand here on this call, we take that Bitcoin and we turn it into US dollars immediately, right? We're not playing, we're not hedging. I personally like Bitcoin. I think it's great, and I own some, right? But at the end of the day, the company is about the development of real estate. We will accept this currency. We will exchange it into US dollars because that's the primary currency that we do business in. We do a little bit in some foreign currency, Canadian and some others too. But at the end of the day, we take crypto, we'll turn it in. And if you have crypto and you're thinking about investing in our company, we'll take crypto as an investment as well. So again, just understand that it's a currency that we accept as an organization. More information about Belize, if you want it, send us a note. We'll send you this white paper. I always like to talk about what's next too, and we're going to wrap it up here real quick. Future assets, something in a vineyard community. There are a lot of people, especially folks out west, who have always dreamed about living in Napa Valley, Sonoma. For folks up in Canada, maybe it's the Okanagan Valley, right? But if you can't write a check for $1 million or $2 million or $5 million, like, you're not getting your house in Napa or the Okanagan Valley. But the properties in Argentina or Chile really allow a consumer to have the same experience. Look at this beautiful picture. Life in a vineyard at the foothills of the Andes for, $200,000-$300,000. So now all of a sudden, a lifestyle that somebody has always dreamed of and wanted, but couldn't really get there price-wise, they can have it in Argentina or Chile. And so this is a strategic acquisition. What are we raising money for right now? We are raising money to acquire a property in either Argentina or Chile, ultimately probably both countries, but for now, one of the two countries, to be able to provide this vineyard experience to the clients who want it. And the other strategic acquisition is Ecuador. It could be coastal, it could be in the highlands, the springtime all the time. Ecuador is specifically targeted because it's affordable. It is the least expensive country for any US citizen to live in Latin America. And it's popular, right? On that, I don't have it on the popularity chart, but it's also very popular. Very, very inexpensive and popular. These two strategic acquisitions over the next 12 to 18 to 24 months are dead bullseye for us. We are raising money to make these acquisitions, to add them to our property portfolio so we can serve more people who want different types of products. Again, expanding our product offering. And this is some imagery of what it's like. What are some of the advantages? Why might you want to own shares of our company? Well, again, at the beginning, I talked about having a team of people that have been around for, in many cases, 10, 12, 15 years. Myself, my business partner for 24 years now operating this business. We have an incredibly talented team of people. One investment, geographic diversification. One investment today, 4 countries. We add Argentina, we add Ecuador. Now you have one investment that gives you geographic diversification in 6 countries, plus all the other business units, right? The demographics are powerful. The baby boomers retiring, tons of them already live down in this part of the world, tons more moving. And now with the impact of the post-corona, I would call it decoupling of where I work from, where I live. Wow. This is a demographic shift that we haven't seen since the shift from agricultural to industrial. I mean, in that moment, people moved from the farms to the cities. Well, now we're moving from industrial to post-industrial in significant ways. The migration now will mirror the kinds of migrations that happen from agricultural to industrial. This is a big time to be in this business and be able to serve these clients who are looking for property overseas. And then again, the IPO is something that, again, for a shareholder like you, you're gonna want to probably sell some of your shares. I hope hold some of your shares for the long-term dividend flow. But the IPO is meaningful to the company because it gives us the ability to put 1 million shares into the market and raise 80, 90, $100 million that we can take and redeploy back into the company to grow it, expand it, serve more clients, generate more profits. Again, the team of people, you heard Rachel earlier, myself, my business partner, with Chief Operating Officer, many people in this company have been around for, again, a decade or more, helping, steering, guiding, and leading this company to where it is today, a very, very successful business in this industry. You've heard me talk about the geography of choice. Here it is, right? Instead of trying to sell somebody a project or a condo in Belize, we can say, hey, which picture up here caught your eye? And they go, well, that Belize one's pretty nice, but I actually love to golf, and a friend of mine lives in Southern California. And we say, well, you know what? That's Grand Pacifica. Or somebody else says, oh, I've always dreamed of living in Napa Valley. Or somebody else says, oh, that springtime all the time thing, that's great. See, we can appeal to a very wide variety of clients and serve them with what they want. This is powerful. But the other element to this model that is just as important is that we have incredible economy of scale. We can run one full-page ad in a magazine. We can have one accounting department. We can have one engineering department. We can have one marketing department. And so instead of having all of these elements to cost elements of a company and have to put all that cost on one project, we can actually take that cost and we can distribute it across today 4 countries, 7 neighborhoods, ultimately, 7, 8, 9 countries and dozens of neighborhoods. So we can take our costs and we can distribute them. And that means one of 2 things. It means we can either make more, we can charge the same price as our competitors and make more because our costs are less per unit, or we can reduce our prices and outbid our competition every time for the same quality of product. And we'll do some of both, of course, just market dependent. But the bottom line is this: being able to serve clients with what they want is powerful. Being able to take our cost basis and distribute it across multiple projects is powerful. These 2 things come together in an incredible synergy. A lot of people we talk to are hard asset investors. I am, metals, real estate, things, right? We like things because, at the end of the day, an idea is a wonderful thing. There are lots of companies that have great ideas, but if the CEO gets hit by a bus, I hope I don't get hit by a bus, but if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, and all the ideas I have go out the window, right? You know what? There's still 4,300 acres and 5 miles of beachfront property, right? Yes, the ideas are important, and we've done a great job of succession planning. So if I do get hit by a bus, right, first of all, we have key man insurance. This is important. We run our business like a business. So many developers in Latin America are hobby developers. They move to Belize, they move to Costa Rica, they're surfers, they're divers, whatever. And I don't know, after, 3-6 months, they're bored, right? I mean, how much can you surf? So they go out and they buy a piece of property and decide they're going to build some homes, cut it up into lots, build some condos, whatever it is they're going to do. They're hobby developers. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I think some of them do a pretty good job, but we're very different. I don't dive. I don't surf. I snorkel once a year because I'm supposed to. I mean, it's all right. It's beautiful, but it's not a passion of mine. I'm a snow skier. I grew up north. I love the snow. I love the cold weather. For me, operating this business in Latin America is all about business. It's about serving a consumer who loves to dive, loves to snorkel, loves to surf, right? We serve those people, right? We run our business like a business. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, the company gets $2.5 million on a key man insurance policy. I know of very few companies, very few of our competitors that have anything like that. We've done great succession planning. But you know what? Key man insurance, the $2 million, all of those things aside, this company is a lot more than ideas. This company is real hard assets. When you own ECI, you own a piece of very, very valuable real estate dispersed across 4 countries. Not many investments like this, really. And when there are companies like this, most of them don't want your investment. We do. We understand that it's through people like you investing in us and our business that allows us to grow our business, get us to an IPO position, take the company public. Again, for shareholders who want to sell at that point, big payday. For those that want to hold on to some of their shares, long-term payout. Again, this is the relationship we've had with our shareholders, and I hope we get to have that same relationship with you. If you want to see our financials, they're in the business plan. Fill out the NDA. Let us know. Powerfully strong assets. Today, the share price is $17.60. That's our share price. The block of stock that we've allocated at $8.80, please, we've never done this before. We are building this war chest to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that we're starting to sniff out a little bit, that over the next 12 months, maybe 18 months, are going to come roaring in. Business has come to a standstill for many developers in Latin America. They depended upon the tourist. They depended on the plane loads of people coming to Belize or Nicaragua or Costa Rica to work them and sell them. Right? Our business model is very different. Rachel mentioned I've been working with the National Association of Realtors for 15 years now to build a network of folks who offer our properties to their clients in the States. If the planes, the planes haven't flown since March and we've sold out 3 projects. We are unique in this space because we've always said we are going to go find the network of distribution for real estate. Affiliates, realtors, newsletter writers, people who actually can deliver the clients to us, whether the planes are flying or not. The people who depended on planes flying are hurting, and some of them are going to hurt a lot worse, and some of them are going to die. And we are going to be there to scoop up some incredible opportunities. One in Argentina, one in Ecuador, and actually maybe one more in Belize on the mainland. We're keeping our eyes out. But at the end of the day, these new assets will get us to the IPO, and that will be a very exciting time. I actually saw some folks who were going to attend this webinar to learn more about the company, and I'm glad you did. If you're not an accredited investor, there are some opportunities. You can actually own physical property. And one of the things out there right now that's probably the best physical property that we have is our Best Western branded studios. One left in the Fleet building, $98,000. We're offering the next building right now as well, the Galleon building with another 16 units. So again, just something to think about. If you want to own shares, great. If you're more of a, I want the title to the property, some great properties that you might want to own as well. Again, all of this is in the business plan, but some great ROI. By the way, as you see at the bottom, this is based on 1760. So these kinds of numbers for the return are actually doubled when you buy a share at $8.80. Those are by the way, those are the property assets. How these numbers were calculated, again, fully described in the business plan. If we take our existing inventory, we don't make any more acquisitions, right? We just take our existing inventory and we sell it for the prices that we've currently sold it for. We generate the same amount of profit that we've generated to date. the amount of money kicking out the bottom line will produce about a 900% return at 1760 a share. So very, very important. These are the current assets, but also there are these reoccurring revenue models, right? The Marriott will kick off couple $3 million a year, and our utility company is going to kick off some nice money. So all of these reoccurring revenue models belong to ECI as well. And those are very, very nice long-term returns to the shareholders. The share price is slated to go up as we add assets. Certainly, we make an acquisition in Argentina or Ecuador, the share price is going to go up. By the way, as soon as this block of stock at 880 is sold out, the share price goes back to 1760, and that's it. So if you're interested, let Rachel know. There's no pressure. I mean, if you want to come in, a month or two from now and it's 1760, we'd love to have you. But if this is something you're seriously considering doing, talk to Rachel, reach out, or get on the phone with me. I'm happy to have some conversations. If you want to own ECI stock, owning it at 880 is incredible. It's the best opportunity in 20 years to own our stock. Again, if it's something you want to do later, that's fine too. But the share price will continue to go up as we add additional assets to the book. So just understand that, we acquire something in Argentina, we acquire something in Ecuador. Our Marriott actually opens in 2022, early 2023. Now, all of a sudden, the share price really starts to bump up. You want to be in ahead of these price increases if this is something that you want to do. Again, today's share price, 1760, own it for 880. Please own it for 880. If this is what you want to do, reach out, let us know. We'd love to have you on board. These are some of the milestones. Again, we've sold 11 of the 12. Our Marriott complex is under construction. 20 tiny homes sold out. Phase 2 waiting list. This is all in Belize. In Panama, the acquisition of the Highlands property. In Nicaragua, 32 of our tiny homes there sold out in less than a month. Incredible. 3.5 weeks. We announced it, and 3.5 weeks later, 32 of these units were sold. Again, it's the relationships we've built over years, over decades in some cases, that are translating into this type of sales activity. There's a Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton song, "You Can't Make Old Friends." We've built relationships with newsletter writers and affiliates and the real estate community for decades. And these relationships are really bearing fruit today. And again, other people can start to gen those up, but you can't make old friends. Best time to invest in a company is when we are in the midst of an expansion, and we are. Please, if this is something you want to do, let us know. We'd love to have you. Again, if you've got crypto, let us know. I know some of the folks on the call tonight have crypto, and if you want to make the investment with crypto, we'd certainly be happy to take it. All right, 880, there it is, the coronavirus opportunity war chest. I think Rachel Jensen put that slide together. I like that, the coronavirus opportunity war chest. That's a nice, succinct way of saying it, Rachel. Really, we are preparing for an incredible opportunity to acquire additional assets for pennies on the dollar, and that opportunity is very timely for us. Please help us do that, get there. You're going to benefit from picking up our stock at half price. And we're going to go out and acquire more assets, and the share price will go back to 1760, and then it'll go to 18, 19, 20, 25 bucks. So you're going to see an immediate pop in that share price as we acquire some additional assets. So Rachel, I think that's it. Oh, there it is, the contact page. Rachel, I know I went a little long. I'm sorry. I went the full hour, but I'm willing to stay on a little bit if folks have some questions Of course. Yeah.
And so I am seeing there were some great questions that were asked during the session here. So what we will do, I just look at my video on so I can say, hey guys. Okay. All right. So we'll go through the questions, really great questions. Some of them I know that you did touch upon a little bit as you were going through the presentation, but it probably doesn't hurt to reiterate it. The first one is here from Wayne, and he said, is the strategy to ultimately sell to someone like a Pulte in the near future after the IPO, or hold long term?
Wayne, thank you. Great question. And the answer is I don't really know. I think that probably prior to an IPO, we would not sell out to anyone. because I don't think anyone would pay us the valuation that we believe we can achieve in a very short period of time. And by short, I mean 2025, 2026. The IPO, again, we'll take 1 million shares, we'll put them into the public offering, and we fully expect to have a share price at the IPO somewhere around 80 to 90, maybe $100 a share. And so again, if you just do the math on that, I mean, you buy them for $8.80 and we go public at 80, right, or 90, whatever. I mean, there's your 10x. For us, taking that money back into the company and redeploying it over a period of a couple of years, getting a marina in Costa Rica genned up, now all of a sudden the value of the company is significantly higher in the marketplace for a purchase by a Pulte or somebody who would come along and want this. Yeah, and your question is very good, and your question is actually very insightful. If somebody in the US, a big home builder in the United States or Canada, came along and said, holy smokes, they're hundreds of thousands of North Americans are going overseas every year. And right now it's tens of thousands going overseas every year. But when that number gets to be hundreds of thousands or even, 500,000 every year going overseas to buy property, people are going to start to pay attention. And so when one of these developers comes along and says, wow, I can either try to recreate this thing or I can go buy it, I think a lot of them are going to look at the buy it option, right? Okay. So, to answer your question, if somebody came along with the right offer, first of all, we have a board of directors and we have quarterly meetings and we're all pretty much on the same page that sort of this idea that, everything's for sale, but my wife and daughters, and the company, yeah. Right. And I have a couple teenage daughters, so that's saying a lot right now. But anyway, the point is that, for the right offer, we would look at it seriously because ultimately if you decide to invest, you're my boss. I work for you, the shareholders, and we will do what's right for the shareholders of the company in the end. I just think that in the short to midterm, we hold on to the company, we take the company public, we put those funds back in, we can really accelerate the value of the company significantly in that 2024, 2025, 2026 time period. Well, now all of a sudden, if we hold on to it for another couple years and we can double our money again, wow. That's huge. So I would think that at some point, to answer your question, we will be approached because some of these big companies will begin to notice that they're missing out on a big segment of the marketplace and they'll want to have it. And right now we're the only game in town. There is no other developer doing what we do, developing product in multiple countries of the region. I mean, honestly, I'm flabbergasted. Truly, I'm flabbergasted that nobody else has kind of figured this out. And maybe somebody will someday. But again, it takes a long time to put this together. And we've got a great team of people that have figured out how to put it together. Great human resource, great what I would call intellectual capital within the organization. So insightful question, Wayne. Thank you for asking.
Yes, and this is another great question here from Wayne is, does the investor currently receive cash flow by being an equity owner? In other words, dividends, passive income from real estate, utilities, internet services, etc. Yeah,
another great question. At this point, all funds are being plowed back in the company until we take the company public. So we calculate the dividend yield, and that dividend yield will be converted. It's not converted on an annual basis, but prior to the IPO will be converted as a dividend reinvestment based on what that yield should have been in a cash position. But we take that cash and we're continuing to reinvest it in the company. And so because we do that, we give you the benefit of that same reinvestment in more shares. By the way, that's explained in much better detail and much better way than I just did in the business plan. So take a look at the business plan. If there's something in there you want to dig in a little deeper, we can get on the phone and look at that too.
Yes, another great question here from Steven. He says, you mentioned metals as an investment. You accept Bitcoin as payment. How about physical gold or silver?
We do. We actually will take physical gold and silver as payment. It's one step more complicated because we need to have it assayed before we'll accept it as an organization to validate its true worth. But yes, we will accept it. if that was something you wanted to do, we could look at the technical details of it. But the short answer is yes. It's just a little more complicated because we have one more step to throw in the middle, which is the assaying. But yes, we will.
All right, another question here, another great one from Steve. Can you handle / manage a 1031 exchange? Probably not for shares of the company, but how about for a property?
Well, Steve, great question. A 1031 exchange, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. Consult your lawyer, consult your accountant. How's that for my disclaimer? Anyway, but a 1031 exchange, based on my understanding, is that it must be like kind. And in that sense, domestic to domestic, foreign to foreign. So if you have a foreign property and you sell it, then yes, you can 1031 the proceeds from a foreign property to another foreign property, or domestic to domestic. The shares would not count in either case.
All right. What is the minimum amount of investment that you are accepting? And is that different if funds are inside or outside of a retirement account?
No, in fact, the minimum investment's around $81,000, just under $81,000. And so, and you can mix, by the way, we let people mix. If part of the money came from an IRA, say, and part of the money came from, traditional, just regular money, that's fine. So we do understand that people have different buckets of money, and we will look at both of those and call them from the same kind of person, even though they're technically different, but ultimately in the spirit of the investment, it's coming from one person.
Exactly. And so I just that question a few times on here. So it's 9,200 shares, because I had somebody say it's a minimum of 46 at 1760. So what is the minimum of 880? So at $8.80 a share, it's 9,200 shares. So you're getting up to $80,960. So the minimum amount hasn't changed, but you get more shares. You get double the amount of shares for that same investment. So yes, I did see that a couple of times. Here's a great question, James. What does ECI stand for?
I love it. Thank you. This is tuition. This was a great life lesson. Somebody told me this long after we named our company back in 1996, Exotic Key International, and Key is spelled C-A-Y-E. Well, back in 1996, I was a lot younger and probably a little more naive, and I didn't really understand the connotations of exotic. Anyway, so after a while, people were like, oh, exotic, and like, what's that mean? So we shortened it up to ECI, and then development being what we do as a business. So Exotic Key International. We started on Ambergris Key, Belize, which is how that happened. But life lesson. Pick your name very carefully because it's going to be with you for a long time.
Perfect. So I'm seeing, here's a question from Tim and Mike. I know you're not an accountant or a CPA, so I'll give that disclaimer for you. But Tim asks, how are dividends taxed by the Belizean government?
Okay. It sounds like a simple question, but let me back it up and say, ECI is a Belize holding company. ECI, Exotic Key International Limited. That's the technical name of the company. It's a Belize IBC, International Business Company. It is not taxed in Belize. However, our Grand Bayman business unit is a 250 company, which is a local Belizean company. That's the company that develops and sells real estate. That's a company that manages properties and all that kind of stuff. And in each country, in Nicaragua, we have local companies that do the same thing, Costa Rica, Panama. Each of these local companies works in the local environment, and those local companies all pay whatever the taxes are that are, due and appropriate in those jurisdictions. They then take what's left after the taxes. They can send that money to the Belize IBC, which then can pay those dividends tax-free from a Belizean standpoint. Now, depending on your nationality, U.S. citizens are taxed on the worldwide income. So, when those dividends flow out to the shareholder, each shareholder, depending upon their country, their residency in some cases, whatever it is, needs to look at the tax implications there. But the Belize IBC, Exotic Key International Limited, pays no taxes on the distribution of the dividends that come to it. However, the Belize company that generates some of those dividends as the operating entity does pay taxes in Belize. Complicated answer. Great question, by the way. I hope I explained that well enough.
Yeah, I think so. Tim, if you want any further clarification on that, just type into the Q&A section there. Steve, great question. How many shareholders presently, and what percentage of your shareholders also own property?
We're sitting. It's kind of two answers to it. So somebody asked if I have an IRA and my own personal money, can we do that? And the answer is yes. And the question then becomes, do you count that as one shareholder or two?
Right.
So we have a technical answer, which is about 200 shareholders, which is, that would be counted as two. And when we look at the number of shareholders sort of as, I would call that one shareholder, right? I mean, technically it's two, but it's kind of one. We're a little under 200 shareholders as a total, if we look at it as sort of counting those kind of things as one. What percentage of our shareholders own property? A quarter? What do you think,
That's
Rachel?
what I said. Yeah, I was going to say 20-25%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. This is a very good question, Andrew, because I know we talked about it from the U.S. perspective, but he says RRSP eligible.
Sorry, Andrew. No. My understanding, again, there's a disclaimer. My understanding is that an RRSP must be invested in Canadian stocks, and this would not qualify. But you could check with someone up there in Canada and find out if there are some alternatives. But my understanding is no. I think at this point, none of our shareholders have invested, in an RRSP for what I believe to be that reason.
All right. Ken says, explain what an accredited investor means.
Sure. It's in the form, the non-disclosure form. So if you want to see the business plan, you'll actually get the full technical definition and need to sign off on it. But basically what it says is that if you're an individual and you earn more than $200,000 a year, or if you're a couple where both people work, you earn more than $300,000 a year, or these are ors, by the way, or you have a personal net worth of $1 million or more, excluding your primary residence, then you are an accredited investor and may invest in our company.
And to confirm, Mike, that is for Americans only?
Oh, thank you, Rachel. That is correct. That is for U.S. citizens and residents only. Correct. Yep.
Great. Chris, really great question here. I'm loving these questions. Thank you. Chris says, do you have to buy shares in $80,960 chunks, or once we exceed the 81,000 mark, can we buy less than another 9,200 shares, or only in that increment?
Yeah. Once you've hit the minimum, any number of shares then qualify. So good question. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Andrew gave a smiley face. Thank you, Andrew. And then Steven said, excellent presentation. Thank you. So that's all I'm seeing here from the Q&A section. What we are going to do is we're going to make sure that you get a copy of this recording as well. I know that over the past few days, Mike has sent, I think, just about everybody who's on this presentation now a non-disclosure form. We've gotten it back from a handful of you at this point. If you have not yet submitted it, and you are an accredited investor and you would like a copy of the business plan, please do get that back over to us. We will send it again tonight in the email with the recording so that you do have that NDA handy. But again, we do need that NDA completed if you do want to see a copy of that full business plan. I know a couple of people have emailed saying we don't have a printer. How should we do this? You're able to fill in the form on Adobe PDF. By the way, you can just you can type right in there as well, or I could probably send it to you in Word version, but we just need to get you to somehow get a signature on there. Our attorney does require it before we send out the business plan. So that's if you are from the States, you just need to be accredited. Otherwise, if you're not, like Mike mentioned, we have great opportunities, property opportunities, agricultural as well, where we can certainly talk to you about those. So thank you everybody so much for joining us. Mike, thank you so much for this great presentation. And we look forward to welcoming you all to the family soon if it makes sense for you. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye now.